So I was messing around with this motor the other day, and I come to find out that you can pull the cooling fins right off the side of the cylinder heads, and that all of this is just ornamental skirting on the cylinder head. Part of me was thinking, oh, well, these dissipate heat, but they're on rubber standoffs. They're not even touching the cylinder head, so these are just completely for decoration. I'm going to take the cooling fins off the cylinder heads, and I'm going to end up repurposing a couple of these for something else. You'll see that eventually. And then I'll cut all of the excess material off these cylinder heads, and I think that stripped down motor will end up looking really cool. These do absolutely nothing. They're just completely decorative. So those will go. All this skirting will go. These will go. Yeah, I've already pulled them off this side. I have plans for some stuff to put on this side. On this side, I might do like a coil mount or something. I haven't quite decided. I'll utilize the mounting holes on these cylinder heads. After I get these cut away, I'll put this back in the frame. We'll get it on the table, and then I'll whip up some exhaust for it. I would have liked to do all this outside, but it's minus 25 again. We got to do dirty aluminum work in the garage, which always sucks because it makes a mess. They're on rubber standoffs. I don't know how well this is working as a heatsink if it's not even touching the motor. Just having these off and all of this superfluous material off, it should help with cooling, in my mind. I'm not going to go all crazy and fill all this stuff in and, like completely smooth these out. I think I'm going to get new car boots for these just because these stock ones are really stiff. I don't think I should have to fight to get these on and off as hard as I do. Urgh! Holy fuck. I just had to be a man. If anybody knows what this is, I have the book, but I'm also lazy. So if you could just tell me what that is, can I take it off? Can I, Oh yeah, fucking easy. Look, it looks brand new in there. I'm assuming that this is just a breather of sorts. I don't know anything about anything. Obviously I covered the engine, because this is going to make a bunch of mess cutting this apart. I'll probably blast these. I have a friend, actually Chris, the painter, at his shop. He's got like a plastic media aluminum blaster, so I'm going to run some of my parts through it just to give it a even finish. Last time when I did the wheel, I just used a dust mask and my lungs hurt for like 3 days after. So I've got an actual respirator. Okay, well that didn't take any time at all. I just zip cut that skirting off the outside all the way around on both of these. And I was trying to find a way to hold this in the vise to knock these off, and then I looked inside and the castings go up in there, so that would have been a major fuck up. So I'm just gonna leave those. I don't care enough to take those away. I think this gets the point across. I'm gonna smooth these out with a sanding pad on the grinder, and then that's it for these ones. I'm gonna take the majority of it down with a flex cut. They're for aluminum, so those look pretty good, I'd say. I hit them with the sanding pad, smooth them all out. Using some needle files just to take that sharp edge off the corner. I got a comment on my sissy bar video asking if I was at all concerned about the weight because of how hefty that thing is. I just shaved like 3 grams off these valve covers, so I think I'm good. All the riggers in the audience will know that that's not a proper angle. Oh god. Holy. Okay, I think we're there. Whew. I don't use this thing often, but when I do, it is incredibly handy. I've got this up on the bench, and I've got my piece of tube clamped on. I just used a few parallels to kind of determine how much gap I wanted between the frame. So what I'm using is 409 stainless. It's like automotive stainless tubing. It's just a lower quality grade than 304. It costs less, and that's why I use it. I get it from Lyle Stainless They're in Ontario. I think it's like mandrelbending.com or something. So I've got a couple lengths of this and a mandrel bend. I'm just going to build a 2-into-1. Do a straight tube out the back, come out into here, and then a bend here. I'm going to do one mount on the sissy bar. I'm going to machine up a piece of 304 stainless round bar. I'll just cross drill it, and then we'll cross drill the tube, and I'll drill and tap the sissy bar. I'm going to drill a cross hole in this just because the mill vise is still in here. Picked a mark where I think that cross hole should go. I centered this drill bit up by using a scale, and then you just put pressure on it, and then you can move this back and forth until this scale is relatively flat. And then I have this marked on the bit with Sharpie, you can see, just so I don't go too far. Little WD-40 and some Scotch-Brite takes that writing right off there. This didn't fit in there, then my little piece of 5/8 didn't fit in the hole, and so I drilled it out one more size, and now it's way too fucking big. So I should have just deburred it, maybe a little bit better, but I'll fill the gap. It's not that big of a deal. I have this clamped up on 1-2-3 blocks, and I also have the little down here set on parallels to give it my 3/4 of an inch gap that I determined here, and then I have that clamped to the 1-2-3 blocks. So this should be square to the tube. Given that there's a little bit of play in that hole, I thought that this was the better way to do things. I know that you're supposed to back purge stainless. I am not going to back purge any of this because even though the inside will sugar, this will never break. This smells really good. It smells like burning brake clean and cutting fluid, because there's probably cutting fluid in the inside that I wasn't able to get out. This shit is smoking right into my mouth, so I'm putting a respirator on. As I figure out where things need to go, I can determine if this needs to go up, down, or whatever. I'm hoping that I can come straight in with this. Before I get too crazy setting stuff off this rear sissy bar leg, I'm going to try to bend this back out. The welds on the cross tubes sucked those in. We'll get it close, and then I can always shave down the spacers. I put the axle all the way through the wheel. Everything's nice and tight. And then I have the spacers on the one side, and I'm just hitting this with a little bit of a file just to mark that axle. And then when I pull this out, I can measure from this shoulder to that mark, and then I'll take into account my adjusters as well, and then I'll know how wide those axle plates actually have to be. I think it's somewhere around 11 1/4, but I'll double check that. So that's 11. The adjusters are 1/8 of an inch each, so that is 11 1/4 is what that needs to be. Right now we're sitting somewhere around 11 1/16. Well, I think it's doing something. As soon as this got hydraulic pressure on it, it would stop expanding because it's sideways, and however the valves or whatever work in there. It wasn't working, and I tried a couple other bottle jacks. So this is what I came up with. I wish I would have done this before the motor was in. I just wanted to show you how redneck I can get. I don't want this thing to shoot out of here. 1 3/16. I have to go 1 more 16th, so I'll do that one more time. Of course, I'll double check the chain alignment, just in case that's bending one side further than the other. If I have to shave down spacers or whatever, we'll get it figured out. It's like a 30-second over. So, clearance is clearance. I cut these off the original exhaust. They're the flanges that bolt up into there. This exhaust is 1 1/4 on the inside, and then 1 3/4 on the outside, and I got 1 3/4 tubing, because that's just what everybody makes their exhaust out of. And I could have got 1 1/4, and the only reason being is it would look funny with that little tiny 1 1/4 tube coming off of here. I just like to be different, right? If I have an opportunity to make something different than what everybody else makes, then I'll do it. So I'm going to face these off in the lathe, and then we'll tack some scrap to these just to get a reference from here. I need to set this height off of this one. Wherever that is, wherever they line up perfect, is where this height will go. Rambling. This is chrome plating or nickel plating or whatever. I don't know what that is, but we'll file some of that off so it welds a little bit better. I just found a chunk of scrap tubing in my bin there. I'll tack this on there so I can have a reference surface to put a straight edge on. I drilled the clearance hole on this pretty tight when I welded it. It must have distorted that tube a little bit, so I just have to run the drill through there quick. Just because that end is so close to that weld. Oblonged it a bit. I've made a center on the sissy bar, and then I clamped it back there just at a random height. And then I got this zeroed to the frame. Because I want this to intersect with that, these planes need to line up. So it needs to go down because there's some gap in here. We're running into the clutch stuff underneath, so I might have to cut a clearance into this tube. Alright, I set this to a height that clears this. I'm going to have to put a bend in this. I was hoping to go straight in, but couldn't get an angle finder on there to precisely measure how much offset this is, so I just found some 1/4 inch hot roll in my bin, and I just kind of where the bend I want the bend to be, and then I bent it in the vise until it just lined up, so it's laying flat and touching right here. I laid out that round bar on here and I transferred the angle, determined that at 166 degrees, and then I subtracted 90 from that, and then I laid out this mark would represent the cut face. And I'm just lining it up on that line, and I'm sliding it up until that, when that mark is at the center line radius, at that 45, where it looks good, I marked it here, and then I'll wrap a zip tie around that, and it'll give me a squarish reference cut. The zip tie trick I got from Magnum Machine Works. Give them a follow on YouTube and Instagram. Snugged it up on both those lines. Now I'll transfer this mark. I need to determine this angle now, and my other angle finder doesn't fit in there, so I have this one. It just fits. Batteries are dead, but if I can get a reference off this, that's all I care about. So if I take my square and I put it on there, onto the table, and then on here, onto the table, up here. That mark on the table doesn't change whether this goes up or down. So at least this way, when I get this guy in there, I can mark that line on here and then transfer it in 1 3/4 to get my entry of the hole saw. I'm sure there's a lot more efficient ways to do all of this stuff that I'm doing. I don't spend a whole ton of time researching how to do stuff. I'm gonna just go for it. Oops, pretty big fucking hole. So I've got my reference line on here. I have this somewhat set, so I'll just take this, I'll put a mark here. You can't mark 1 3/4 up. You have to mark it like at a square plane to the table because it's not linear. I'm gonna mark the top of this so I know how to orientate it. Clamped that angle finder into the tubing notcher and then just adjusted this over until this lined up with the side. It's honestly crazy how much of this to me is just eyeballing. Pretty much just eyeball a whole bike together. I'll clamp this, and then I'm gonna loosen these and see if I can get it to fit a little better with just spinning this, but I might have a little bit of grinding to do. I was able to roll this. It's a little bit of gap on that side and virtually none on that side. This fits really well. I am going to weld this right now, and then it can go wherever it needs to go. It'll fall into place a little bit better. This definitely needs to be welded with 309. I think I could get away with welding the rest of it with 304 or 308, I should say. But because I'm going from stainless to mild steel, even though these are pretty close in grade, just because this is 409, I'm going to weld it with 309. When you don't back purge stainless, it really sinks in there. There's a great big bead on the inside of that. That's where my hole was. I kind of had to weave it back and forth. Ground the high spot down. It's on the bottom. I'm not particularly great at welding tube, but like I said, the inside of this is sugared. Considering that there's no real force on this, like other than vibration, that I don't think that's ever going to break. because of my swervy driving with the hole saw, I ended up having to go like 1/8 of an inch this way on my center line, which doesn't matter. You'll never notice that. Let's do a 10-second tidy here, hey? Oh, shit everywhere. I'm going through all this work to make this 2-in-1, and I still have no idea if I'm going to be able to get it on and off the bike. I'm hoping I can just kind of force it on. I have this bolted back on. This thing is just ever so slightly resting on this piece, which is a good sign. There's not a bunch of pressure holding it in. But if you look down this, you can see that that tube curves in because of that weld. And so that's why I'm doing this piece by piece, because stainless moves around a bunch. I'll have to miter this back just a little bit because this is at a slight angle. This isn't straight to the tube, so I'll figure this angle out. I'll draw it on the table again. It is 4 9/16 to the inside, so I just have to add that 1 3/4, and from the outside to there will be our cut. It's just a little bit too long. One more little cut. Alright, I've been fucking around with this thing for a little bit now. I ended up cutting the first one too short, so I cut a new one, and I didn't take into account that these things aren't on the same plane. I had to miter this the other way to like kick this up. The chances of this just being a perfect 90 into there is slim to none. I didn't set anything to that, so I don't know why I didn't think of that. This in the angle iron is quite a bit off. There's a little bit of a gap in here now. I was just holding it up and looking, kind of eyeballing it. I should have had this angle iron in there from the first place. I can kind of make it work. I'm going to tack it on here and pull the angle iron off and see exactly how kicked off this is, but I might be able to get away with just butting it up. You would want this in a straight line ideally, and so when it's in the angle iron, there's a big gap. Do what I gotta do. Yeah, so I made one short one way and the other one short the other way, but I gotta make one work because I don't have another mandrel bend, and it was like $50. I'm really good at making a mess. Yeah, see, it's kicking up. Yeah, like it's kicking up quite a bit. Okay, so what I decided on here was I put the first one back in. I didn't do a great job at either bend, and I chose to have a flat run over good fitment here. So at least now, when I put my straight edge on, it's in a good plane that way. And the fitment on here is just, there's a lip here and a lip there, so it's just, I don't know. I think by the time I put the weld around there, that high-low, that misalignment, won't be very noticeable. Oh, that looks really nice. See, when you go quick, it looks way better, but I'm not fast. I have this much, looks nice, and the rest is kind of lumpy. I hit the high spots with a sanding disc. I don't think anybody's going to be looking at the welds, man. I'm going to have to put some good stitches on this just because I think I'll be able to get it out of there. I'm going to have to put some force on this, I think. Why? What the fuck? Sometimes I just suck, man. Oh my fucking god. Okay. Just a wreck. Fucking wreck. I stuck like 4 tungstens doing 3 tiny little tacks. Oh, God. Oh, fuck yeah. A little bit of prying involved, but not too shabby. This kind of looks a little fucked this way. But it's straight the other way. Have you ever searched, like, welding stainless exhaust, and the guy does the most mint fucking bead. It just looks perfect. Fuck those guys. I like my welds to look like dog shit. It takes a little bit of convincing back here with a pry bar, but you can get this in one go. I'm an idiot, and I was trying to get this in and whatever. Grab that fucking weld barehanded. I actually heard my skin sizzle. I don't feel it right now, because I think I probably burnt the nerves, but she's tight. That's gonna fucking hurt tomorrow. Yeah, the welds. Okay. You know what? I said that in the first video. Just own your welds. I'm gonna own these welds. This pulled slightly. It was up. I just put some weight on it, got it down to our mark. So now I know that that's level with the frame again. There's like 1/8 of an inch of gap there. I clamp this down. Then I've got this transfer punch set. Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, now I've got a center punch. And now I will take this all off again. I found a transfer punch that fits perfectly into this 1, 2, 3 block. I have it set in that center punch, and then I'm clamping this 1, 2, 3 block to the sissy bar. I have an 11/32, and that's the tap drill size for M10 1.5, and that just fits in that hole. And this will give me a nice perpendicular hole. It's a thick plate with no pilot hole. Remember when I said I was going to do a 10-second tidy and clean the table? I just moved it all over there to the other table. Now I probably should be using some sort of fucking guide to get this in straight, but I'm just going to trust my skills. Well, had to be somewhat straight if it landed in the hole on the backside. There was this guy that would rebuild like dirt bikes on a Red Bull channel. I can't remember what his name was, but he would do stainless pipes, and then all you do is WD-40 them, and then you clean them off. It'll end up giving it a nice brush look, but then when you fire this up and that oil burns off, you get like puts a nice base for that gold color that stainless is always known for. But you want to wear gloves when you're wiping all this off, because your fingerprints will actually burn into the pipes when you go to start this. Obviously, I'm probably going to have to do this again before I ever fire the bike up, but I thought I would share. Polished is sweet, but if you're going to be riding stuff every day, just brushed is a nice look. It's so much easier to maintain. See, this took me 5 minutes, whereas if I polished it, it would take me 10 hours. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Oh, fuck yeah. Stick that in that one, and then this one just takes a little bit of a... I don't even need to run these things. I could just... Oh, for fuck's sakes, I forgot to put the... Take it off again. Forgot to put these fucking things on, whatever they're called. There's a piece missing out of here, of the aluminum, and I have a suspicion that this is the exact reason why. I'm really happy with how this just kicks in slightly. Gives it a nice slope into the engine. This bolt I got just fits a lock nut. So I've got a lock washer here, it's threaded there, and a lock nut on that side, so it shouldn't fall off anytime soon. This is exactly how I pictured it in my head. So, I guess that's a win. I'm pretty happy with it. Other than the little bit of hiccups with the fit-ups on the tubes, it turned out alright. Once the seat's done and I get a better sense of my seating position on this, I'm gonna have to probably do some sort of heat shield or something The price for the exhaust, I got it on manualbending.ca or something like that. Lyle Stainless. It was Boxing Day or New Year's or something. I ordered it and I got it on sale. It was like 15-20% off. I paid $31.45 for that length of tube, and then the J bend was $42.47. So $73.92 for that exhaust. I didn't do the tally on the last episode. This fender, this material for the fender, was $15.61, and then a friend gave me that 2-inch. So it was free. And shaving these valve covers was free. So the grand total, with everything up to this point, the rear tire, exhaust, the tubing, is $1,215.80. That's what I've got into this thing so far. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something, or learned what not to do, or whatever. But follow me on Instagram, Coilbird. Follow nobody else, just me.